Hey guys, today we're doing something a little bit different, but it's gonna be so much fun. So I've been making soap for a couple of years now, and I got the idea to try to copy the H2O, no longer H2O, Disney resort soap. It may not be exact, but I'm bringing you all along for the experiment, and at the end of the video, I'll let you know how close I got and cost this out for you. If you end up trying this or have tried something similar, please let me know in the comments. I am super curious. Also, keep in mind, I'm not a soap expert. I'm just sharing my process. I am really just a doofus who likes to make things. I think this is actually perfect to give out as gifts, and we're right on time with the holidays right around the corner. So this is maybe a fun way to save money and still give great presents. Friends and family watching this, look away so you don't ruin the surprise. First up is safety, non-negotiable. You're gonna need to wear long sleeves and gloves. Disposable gloves are fine, but you can also use rubber kitchen gloves. You're gonna need to get a mask for the lye fumes and also a pair of goggles or safety glasses. I have some wax paper down just to help make cleanup easy since I'm a hot mess, but this isn't something that you really need to do. I'm making a more basic recipe today, and I'll put the links down below to some great resources to help you do some calculations. You don't really need to do too much math since I'm doing all the work for you today, but it will help for future batches and if you want a different maybe level of fragrance, as well as a really basic beginner soap recipe from Brambleberry that this is very similar to. This batch is gonna make roughly a little over 2 pounds of soap. So depending on how you cut your bars, you should get roughly 10 to 12 bars of soap that look like this. This is from a different batch. The color may be a bit different depending on your oils. Sometimes they get a bit brown or yellow as they cure, but you get the general idea. I'm just gonna be doing a loaf mold today. It looks like this. But you can also do some silicone molds like these here. This is a batch I did yesterday and I still haven't bothered unmolding yet, so. I don't wanna make this video 10 years long, so this is definitely one where you're gonna have to scope out the description down below. I'm gonna drop all of the things that I'm using there, as well as a few hopefully helpful tips that I can think of. So let's get to work. You're gonna need a scale like this one. I like this one because it uses more decimal places than some other ones I've used in the past. I'm gonna get my lye and my water measured out first because I want my lye water to cool while I'm getting my oils weighed out. Also, just one thing to note, we're gonna be using distilled water to make the soap today. We're not gonna be using tap water or anything like that. Okay, so I made sure I turned it on once this was here because I want the number to be 0 when I start. So let's do the water first. All right, that should be good enough. All right, so this is our water, and I'm gonna actually take some of the water out of here to mix with my clay. You don't need to use the clay at all, but I know lots of people swear by this and they swear that it helps the soap retain its scent longer. I do think it helps. I don't think it's make or break. Cool, so this is for the kaolin clay, and I'm gonna set this aside to use in a minute. So now it's time for us to go ahead and get the lye measured out. We're gonna sit that on the scale, make sure that's reading 0. Okay, so since it's lye time, I'm gonna sound muffled, but I definitely have my mask and goggles on right now. Hopefully you can still hear me. Get this out of the way, so hopefully you guys can see. So this is my water here. There's a spoon to mix it up right there. So I'm gonna add the lye very slowly to the water, not the other way around. And I'm gonna be mixing with a stainless steel spoon. And these are just, I got a pack of these from the dollar store, nothing fancy. Just to be clear, I have my mask and goggles on, FYI. You're gonna wanna be in a well-ventilated area. I'm actually near an open window right now. Just to give you guys an idea, it's about 84 degrees right there. The water, I think, starts at like 75, it's ambient. And you'll be able to tell as you're mixing it up. It'll get a little cloudy, and you'll be able to tell, you can see the steam. Let's see if you guys can see the steam on the side. It's starting to get really warm. I'll show you the temperature again in a minute. You'll see how hot it gets. So that's another thing you're definitely gonna need. You're gonna need a thermometer because you are gonna wanna make sure that the oils and the lye are around the same temperature. Let's get this here and we'll see. I'll show you what the lye ends up as. Get all that out of there. I'm gonna get rid of that guy. We'll stir it together and I'll let you know how hot this has gotten. I feel like I'm Breaking Bad over here, but right now our lye water is at 203 degrees. I'm gonna set that there and we're gonna keep it moving. So now let's get everything else together. I have bulk buys of most of these because I make batches pretty frequently, but you can get smaller quantities at your local grocery store. The palm oil is of course sustainably sourced and you'll have to order that from either Amazon or a soap supplier. I've never seen this at a grocery store before. So I have one that is just about wrapped up. So I'm gonna try to use the rest of this first. We're gonna use, this is just a big mixing bowl. I think I got this at Target. Okay, again, we're gonna tear it out. We wanna make sure that whenever we put something new in this bowl that this reads 0 again, so we get our measurements correct. So I'm gonna add my castor oil first. Try to always go slow. It's easier to get it out of the bottle than back in the bottle. Coconut oil. You're gonna wanna keep some paper towels handy. This can get a little messy. Again, I'm gonna tear it out so I'm at 0. Got our big boy olive oil here. Make sure, again, tearing it out. All right, let's tear it out. Let's go ahead and get that palm oil on here. Okay, you need to make sure that the palm oil is mixed together really well before adding it to the bowl. It just tends to separate a little bit. If you get a bag like this from Brambleberry, you can just stick it in the microwave to make things a little bit easier if you find it's a little stiff. Oh my gosh, guys, it is exactly the right amount. I feel like I should make a wish or go to the casino. That is literally perfect, the perfect amount left in this bag. The recipe, the basic recipe that I'll link to from Brambleberry doesn't have cocoa butter in it. I use a little bit of cocoa butter. In this recipe, I really do like adding cocoa butter just because I think it helps not dry you out so much. So I'm just gonna add just a little bit of the cocoa butter. I'm using such a small amount. This isn't gonna throw off the scent from the fragrance oil. I was worried about that at first when I first started using it, but I haven't noticed it affect the smell at all. Okay, with all of my oils measured out now, I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my fragrance oils. I use a barbecue skewer, and you'll see me do this to actually help me not spill the oil everywhere when I pour. And I use, whenever I do like candle testing or something like that, I use these little glass mason jars. And I also use these to measure out fragrance oil. They're really great, really easy to clean, and then I don't have a lot of plastic waste or anything when I'm done. I'm gonna be trying to combine the sea salt fragrance oil from Brambleberry with a tiny, tiny bit of, this is the Peppermint Essential Oil. This is a second distillation peppermint oil that is a little stronger because I really wanted that kind of menthol kick that I get from like the Disney soap. A couple fragrance tips. I always cut a few small strips of cardstock or paper and then I dip them in the bottles to create the combinations. I just put the two pieces together and sniff. I kind of let it sit for a few hours and then I come back and see how I feel about them. Opening the bottles and then just taking a big old sniff isn't really, I don't think, a good representation of what the scent is going to be like. And the scent in the soap will even evolve a little bit after it's done curing. So it's really kind of just trial and error. And you need to check a fragrance oil calculator when you make any soap to make sure that you're using it in safe amounts. You can't just dump like a whole bottle in. You actually do have to calculate it based on the weight of your oils. I always test a bar out for a while before giving it to anyone else since I have really, really sensitive skin. But there's always a risk of reaction. So, you know, just some things to keep in mind. I just put the mouth of the bottle right up against the stick and pour. I spilled a lot of oil before I saw this trick on YouTube, actually. This smells really good, actually. Even on its own. The sea salt, I think, smells great, but I don't think it smells close enough to the Disney soap for me. So I like it. It's really it does smell kind of beachy. There is a little salt in it, but I'm getting a lot of ozone from this, which I like. But I think we're just gonna, just a tiny bit of peppermint to give it like a kick. All right, so we got our fragrance oil ready. We're gonna put that to the side over there. Now I'm gonna put my oils in the microwave so I can get them to the right temperature and make sure they're blended. Let's just, for science, we are at 148 is what our lye water is right now, so it's coming right down. At this point, my goal is to get the oils and the lye water within about 10 degrees of each other. Lots of people like to soap at different temperatures, but I've been doing it in that 120, 130 degree range. You can hopefully hear me over the roar of the microwave. I'm gonna go ahead and get this water and mix it up while we wait on those oils. I have this little spatula. I actually love these if you do any sort of crafting or if you want to keep making soap. These are probably my favorite ones, and I actually got these at Daiso. Let me get this nice and mixed up. I just want to make sure there's no, I like this because there's a kind of a curved back to it, and I can really make sure I get all the lumps out. I want this kind of just nice and smooth. About one, so they're about the same. I'm gonna let them both cool a tiny bit before I add everything together. Okay, so we are at 127 for the lye water, and our oils are at 125, so I think we're ready to do it. Feel good about that. So before we combine these two, I'm gonna add a little sodium lactate to the cool lye water. This is gonna make it harden a little bit faster so that I can get it out of the mold a little sooner. You can certainly skip this step, but if you do skip this step, I would wait maybe an extra day to cut or unmold the soap if you do. All right, so once I'm at this point, I'm gonna go ahead, and you might have seen this guy here. This is a stick blender that I have. This is just a cheap guy, and I'll link this down below. Of course, I'm gonna go ahead and slowly put this into the oils, and I'm gonna tap it a few times. See the bubbles? I don't know if you can see that, but the bubbles came out. You don't want any bubbles in your soap at all, because you may get air pockets in your bars. Nothing really super wrong with that other than it's just not all that cute. There we go. All right, so you absolutely, of things you can't skip, you absolutely do need a stick blender, or it's gonna take forever to blend this. It's probably gonna be the equivalent of trying to turn butter by hand if you don't. It's 2024, you can do that, but why would you? All right, so we're ready to go here. Now I'm gonna take this lye water, and my goal is really to pour it on the stick part of the blender. I wanna eliminate, I don't want a lot of splash. So really slow, you see how slow I'm doing that? No splash, no air bubbles. There's no pouring your lye water race, so you're not in a hurry at all. Sure, carefully get all of that out. This is about where I want it right now. I don't like to overdo it before I've added my oils or anything. So I'm gonna try to do, I can kind of do a pretty L right in the top there. And that's called trace. And you can pick your own favorite letter of the alphabet, but you get the gist. That's when you know it's thick enough to add the rest of your accoutrement. So this is where I'm gonna add my clay and my fragrance oil. If you were gonna add dye to your soap, this is also when you would add it in. I like to do the fragrance last just in case it makes the batter really thick and it makes it get too thick too fast. Some fragrances can do that. I guess we're gonna learn together if this actually accelerates or not. I'm gonna give this clay another little stir. If you stirred it earlier in order to be prepared, like me, you just have to make sure it just tends to stick to the bottom. I really like to kind of mix everything in with my spatula first. So we've got our fragrance oil here. We'll go ahead and add that. Is it just me? I'm always like, every last drop. I have to get every little bit out. That smells great, by the way. Oh, that smells so good. So the fragrance oil that I did, the ratio, it is about 75% of that sea salt and about 25% of the peppermint. This smells really good. Both of these fragrance oils, the essential oil and that fragrance oil, they seem to be behaving really well in here. I think that's pretty good. Usually I don't pour on my tiptoes forward like this, so hopefully it's not a mess. I'm gonna have to mute you guys for this. We don't want any air bubbles. Slam it on the table, you're gonna get air bubbles out, you're gonna get it to look a little better. You might notice as we slam it, I did pretty good about trying to make sure I didn't have air bubbles in it this time. But what you might see is as you slam this on the table, you might see a couple of little bubbles actually come to the surface, which is awesome. That's what you want. If you have a clean spoon, you're going to take this and you can make little designs on top. Or people do things like put bubble wrap on the top or lace or things like that, just to kind of get a cool design on it while it gets solid. Kind of smooth out. I don't like a lot of those little stiff peaks on the top. I feel like they look cool, and then when you like shower with them, they just kind of break off right away. Really just want this to look more presentable, but that's a chance for you to be creative. There's lots of different things you can put on top. Some people you'll see they'll sprinkle, like, depending on the scent, like lavender or something like that. Just clean this up because this isn't going to be usable on the edges. It's just going to be a crusty mess that we have to clean off later. Oops. Oh well, we're just having a good time, guys. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, just Bob Ross it, right? And I think if you give this away as gifts, people would really just be, oh, that's cool, you made something, right? People love handmade soap. I know I love handmade soap. I feel like it's much better than what I find in the stores. So there we are. This is my H2O, non-H2O copycat soap. And lastly, I'm just gonna spray some rubbing alcohol on top of this. It's a 91% alcohol solution I got at Target and a cheap little dollar spray bottle. It just helps so you don't get any ash on top of the bars, because ashy is never cute. And the very last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna actually let my oven heat up to about 100 degrees. I'm gonna turn the oven off, and then I'm gonna place the loaf inside overnight. This is gonna cause the soap to go through gel phase, where the lye reacts to the oils and gives us, you guessed it, soap. Gel phase can make your colors really pop if you use dyes or colorants, and I think it cures a little bit faster, so you can use it a little bit sooner. I'm gonna be using an oven, but I know some people wrap it in a towel and then put it in like a warm place to get it to gel also. Once you've finished all of that, I would wait 24 to 48 hours to cut your soap into bars, and then you're gonna let it sit somewhere to dry for about 4 to 6 weeks. If you wait too long to cut it, it's gonna be super hard to cut through. So don't wait weeks to divvy it up. The curing process is really just us waiting on the water to evaporate out of the bar so you have a nice hard bar that lasts a good long time. I actually have a cutting tool that I got from Amazon. The set that I got, it came with this, 2 of these and these, and I'll of course link that down below. I like it because they're all measured out. You can also just use a big knife and a ruler, get your bars all divvied up. Also, if you want smooth corners on your soap that maybe make gripping it a bit easier, you can just use, you know, just a cheap potato peeler to shave the edges. In this bar, for example, I didn't use the potato peeler. This was just me trying a scent out and I didn't care. But there you go. So that is it. If you have comments or questions, please drop them down below and I will do my best to hopefully have helpful answers. Also, let me know if you like this kind of video. I make a lot of things and I just figured I'd hit record this time. So anyway, guys, I will see you in the next one. Go forth, be kind, be creative. This is what it looks like when it's gelling. You can see that the center is gelling, and hopefully we'll see that gel kind of hit these edges a little bit later. You can see we're slowly creeping towards the edges. And here we are. You can see that this made it all the way to the edge.